Hi everyone, this is Storyward, where emotion meets intelligence. When you're doing something routine at work, our mind wanders a little, right? Maybe you're running a small test, or updating a document, or maybe even repeating a process you've already done many times. And while you're doing it, your mind starts reflecting on random things. Something that earlier happened in the day, a conversation you had, or even something about yourself. A few days ago, during one of those random moments, I noticed something about the way I approach work. I get strangely excited about things. Not big things, small things. It might be a new project, a system that I haven't seen before, a platform that I haven't worked with before, or maybe even a process that I don't fully understand yet. So my brain immediately goes, wait, how does this actually work? So sometimes I wonder if that's a bit unusual because when you enter most workplaces, especially early in your career, you start noticing a certain atmosphere. People are going to be busy, people are focused, and everyone seems to know exactly what they're doing. And after a while, you start adjusting yourself to that environment. You try to appear calm, professional, like you've seen everything before. But inside, sometimes you're still curious, still interested, and sometimes you're still quietly excited about figuring things out. In lab environments, this feeling shows up in funny ways. You might be running a random test or, a routine test you've already done 10 times. Same protocols, same measurements, and even the same documentation. But on paper, it's going to be routine. But every now and then, something slightly unexpected happens, like maybe a number shifts or the result is slightly a different version that you've seen already, and suddenly your attention wakes up. You lean a little closer to the screen or even start wondering what changed. Maybe not because someone told you to investigate, but just because you want to understand, right? So, that small amount of curiosity or that small moment of curiosity is something I've always liked about work. Over time, I started noticing another thing that was interesting to me. So, the people who genuinely enjoy their work often have that same reaction. They lean towards things, not away from them, towards them. When something unfamiliar appears, they don't immediately treat it like a problem. Sometimes they treat it like a puzzle. And that small difference changes the entire feeling of work because suddenly the day isn't just about finishing tasks, it becomes a process of figuring things out. Of course, work isn't always exciting. Every job has routine, documentation, emails, meetings, and those meetings sometimes even feel longer than they need to be. All of that is part of professional work. But enthusiasm doesn't mean everything has to feel thrilling. It just means you stay a little bit curious about what you're doing each day. You notice each thing in a different way. You ask the same occasional question again, but in a different way. You care when something doesn't quite make sense. And that interesting thing happens when even one person approaches that particular work a different way. Atmosphere around the task itself changes. Someone else starts wondering about the same detail. A conversation begins. Suddenly, the work feels less mechanical, a little more alive, if you may. So, we can also put it in this way. We can say that if there is genuine interest, even the work begins to speak. So, early in our careers, many of us slowly start hiding our enthusiasm. We worry about looking too eager, too curious, and sometimes even too new. So, we try to appear composed or sometimes even controlled, like we're already understanding everything. But the truth is, the professionals who grow the most are often the ones who never completely lose that curiosity. They keep asking small questions, they keep noticing patterns, or try to understand why things work the way they do, not loudly but just quietly and consistently. And over time, that quiet curiosity turns into something more powerful. So this is not going to happen overnight, but it will happen slowly. The system starts making sense at that time. So patterns will become easier to recognize and problems become less intimidating. One day you realize the most amazing thing. The same curiosity that once made you feel like a beginner has quietly turned into experience. So, if you're someone who still feels that small spark when something new appears at work, or when a process finally makes sense, or even when a problem becomes interesting instead of frustrating, hold on to that feeling. Don't rush to outgrow it, because in many ways, that curiosity is what slowly turns work into something meaningful. So, stay soft and stay sharp. This is Storyward.